What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from Zoom again. And this time we are here with David of the Almighty Virgin Steel. Thank you for being here, man. It is great to have you here.
By the gods, my pleasure.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me.
anytime, man. Anytime. It's so great to have you here with your brand new album coming out, The Passion of Dionysus. Is this just sort of like a maybe like a sequel or continuing where you left off after 2018's Gothic Voodoo anthems in a way, or are you stepping into uncharted territory? Or being that Virgin Steel has so many albums out now, there is kind of like a formula and your own signature style that you tend to stick with for every album.
I think it's a new thing. It's the last three records that we did in that box set. That was more of maybe more of the blues side of Virgin Steel. A throwback to some of the Life Among the Ruins. I mean, there was some blatant heavy things on there as well, but it was more of the epic blues style things we were doing there. This is more like the barbaric romantic sound of like Invictus or Atreus or Visions of Eden, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, I've always admired, like, I felt like Virgin Steel has always been able to sort of like dabble along all spectrums of the periodic table of subgenres, if you will. Because, I feel like you have like the traditional heavy metal side, a sort of power metal side, and then kind of like everything in between. So, with that being said, would you feel like that the first singles that we heard off of this new album are like, we got two so far, such as Spiritual Warfare and whatnot? Is this almost kind of like a good representation of what the whole album is going to sound like, or is that just the tip of the iceberg of what's to come?
There's a lot more on the new album, but that's pretty indicative of the vibe of the new record. Yeah, it's like that. It's aggressive, it's violent, but it goes out there into unexpected areas like those songs do. It's got the classical music element. Yeah, it's pretty much what the album is. When Dusk Fell from Visions of Eden, that sort of thing, something dark like that. There's a couple of tracks like that, but it's all pretty much in that vein of the first two.
hmm and does it ever start off with a preconceived vision of what you want an album to sound like, or is your songwriting process more on the experimental side?
I generally know where I want to go on any given record, and there'll be like certain. I write like daily, nightly. I'm always writing, so there are certain style songs that I group together. Oh, that might be good for that sort of thing. They don't always stay in those groups. They sometimes mingle. But like on the last records, I was into a different sort of ideology and whatnot, and saw that through. And now I got back into more of this barbaric, romantic, epic metal thing, and that's where I wanted the record to be, and that's where it is. And as I was writing that record, I also wrote what's going to be the record after that, follow up.
Oh wow!
So
Oh,
a lot of music that's down the pike.
you're like the George Lucas of heavy metal. You're always planning the next story after one other story.
Always, man, always. I mean, it's what keeps me relatively sane. The work. Yeah, if I didn't do it, I'd be off the rails.
As we don't create because we want to. We create because we have to.
Yeah, it's basically what it is. I am driven. It's why I get up in the morning. It's why I'm still doing it. It's my reason for being, and it's my way of understanding my world.
Um, I've always said that because of the style that you do, like there's a lot of concepts that sort of drive like an album within the sort of power metal, symphonic metal. I feel like you have like many different storylines and whatnot. Does a concept or a lyrical idea maybe help dictate the direction of the music in itself in a way, or do you need to have music before you know what the content or the subject matter is going to be?
Some moments it's driven by the lyric or even the title or just the mood that I want to paint the sonic portrait of. Other days or nights it's I'm at the keyboard playing and get a musical idea. Sometimes you'll get the music and the lyrics will arrive in the same moment. Other days it's one or the other. Yeah, it's always a little different how a song is born. But whatever it is, whatever initially sparks the idea, the rest is then developing it. Really, the work, getting in there, and saying, okay, where can I go with this idea? How far can I bring it? Where does it end? Where does it need to end?
Uh,
So some days, you write something that's like It ends up being a very long song. Like this, I think this the longest song that we've ever done on this album and the shortest song. So like the Ritual of Descent is like a little over 12 minutes, and it's not like I sit there and go, oh, I want to write a long song. It's just that's where it ended up. And if I'm listening back to something that of that length and it only feels like 3 or 4 minutes, then I know I'm on the right road. So I stay there. And then the other one, the really short one, was like I said all I needed to say or express in that 2 minutes and 24 seconds. So why make it longer? It was done. Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah. So it's just whatever it is, it is. There's no preconceived length, in mind.
yeah. Is there is there maybe almost like a lot of research that's conducted into the lyrical themes or whatnot? Is there maybe like, are you looking at either film or literature or visual art as a source of inspiration, or does it always come from your own personal experiences and always from within?
It generally comes from within, but if I want to sing and write about something that's mythological, or whatever, I will go read the myths if I've not read them in a while, go back and see, what was there. And then I will, take that information and I'll alter it also because I want to make it relevant to what's going on today. I don't want to necessarily give a history lesson. I want us to speak about what's going on now and how it relates to where we are and what it means and how it affects my own life, my own experiences. So yeah, there's a lot of my own world in this record, but it's wrapped up in this Dionysian frenzy, and it's done in such a way. I try to make the lyrics open so that the listener can see their life in there. What does it mean for them? They don't have to know what's going on in my life, but I want them to see their lives in it.
Mhm. Well, it's funny that you mentioned that too, because do you think that maybe depending on what the subject matter could be about, the energy that's channeled into it, or maybe just the way that it resonates with you, does that maybe change depending on the subject matter?
That will, yeah, and also the how the record is tracked. The actual performances are going on. This record, the subject matter and the overall mood is more violent. So, we approached it that way. And I sang that way more violently than some other. I mean, it's always a violent insanity that I spew forth, but it was more so on this record, nonstop kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because it needed it. The mood it required it.
And you are a multi instrumentalist as well, so depending on like what instrument you are playing, are you almost expressing a different side of yourself, maybe on a lyrical standpoint versus how you would with guitar or etc.
Well, you do, yeah. You have to think about those instruments and what they're able to do and where they sound best and so on and so forth. Yeah, and be faithful to them.
Now, I wanted to go down a like memory lane with Virgin Steel a little bit because there are a handful of anniversaries I wanted to talk about. There's a famous saying: you have your whole life to make your first record, but you have the rest of your life to make it again. So this year marks 40 years of Guardians of the Flame, the sophomore Virgin Steel album. So going from the self-titled Virgin Steel album to Guardians of the Flame, just a year difference. What was the sort of mindset going into that, and how did that dictate on Wait for the Night, Noble Savage, Age of Consent, etc.?
What came later? Yeah. We did the first record in less than a week. We were only together about 3 weeks when we went into the studio to make that record. And everything happened very quickly. We had been making like cassette versions of it and sending them around, like planting seeds, as it were, around. A lot of people liked it, so they sprouted those seeds. So we said, all right, there's interest. Let's make a vinyl release. So we pressed up 5,000 copies. I was basically selling it from the trunk of my vehicle, and that sold out really fast. So we pressed up another 5,000, and before that was done, we had two deals. So one with Music for Nations in the UK, where we actually MFN1, their very first release, and then Mongol Horde in the States. And that quickly led to the second album. We got Dutch East India, which was Mongol Horde. They said we want to do a follow up to your album. So okay, so we did it, and so did Music for Nations, and I don't know. It seemed like just a matter of like hours that we'd been together. All this stuff was happening, but it was over a matter of like, I guess that year, later that year, we were already thinking about what Guardians of the Flame would be. We had some of the songs written around that time when we made the first record, because we did like these 4-track demos of things like Burn the Sun and Life for Crime, those stuff that Jack had brought in, and we saved them for Guardians of the Flame. And then he and I had gotten together and wrote the title track, Redeemer, and other bits along the way. I had written Don't Say Goodbye, Cry in the Night, and brought that in, and it just went pretty quickly. Those were the days of, really limited budgets, so it needed to go quickly.
Yeah, of course, of
That
course.
that was we were in and out of there. We made that record, learned a lot about making records during that record, and then as soon as we finished that, we went right back in and did that EP, Wait for the Night. So that was like a matter of months or weeks after that, and a year and a half later, we were doing, Noble Savage, and everything else just kind of, blossomed from there. Yeah, it's just the ball started rolling, and it didn't stop rolling till we had some trouble in the early '90s with management and labels and whatever and stuff like that. But then we picked the ball back up and got back in the action.
Well, you led me perfectly into the next question. This year also marks 30 years of life among the ruins. Now, every band that, every metal band that started in the 80s kind of has a similar story, especially if it's come out in 92 to 94, with grunge being in the forefront and everything. They all kind of have a similar story. Metal Church sort of said the same thing in that regard. But, Life Among the Ruins, I think, is a very underrated album as well. So what was the sort of mindset behind that, and how did that influence of, what we would get with, the Marriage of Heaven, etc.?
Yeah, I love that record as well. Thanks. Appreciate that. We wanted to get back to our sort of bluesy Zeppelin-esque roots, and that's what we were doing for a while before we made the album. We were doing gigs in New York, and we were doing everything from what's on that record to like Zeppelin covers and stuff like that, old blues things, and it felt really good. We enjoyed being in that zone, so we knew making the record, okay, this is not like Noble Savage Part 2 or Burning of Rome Part 2. It is what it is, and some people are going to like it and some people are not. But we just said, this is what we got, this is what we want to do. So we made that record as it was, and those people who came on board to Virgin Steel with that album really liked it. Those who were expecting another Noble or whatever were like sort of like disturbed, by it. But years later, they were able to get into it and understand it. It's always, sometimes you need several years for certain records, especially with us. Also, when we did Visions of Eden, people like 4 or 5 years later were like hailing it as this wonderful masterpiece when it wasn't so loved when it first arrived. So it goes on. But anyway, after doing Life Among the Ruins, we had sort of like scratched that itch, so to speak, and I wanted to get back into really lighting out for the territories and fusing that barbaric, romantic, classical metal thing, and that's where songs like "I Will Come for You" came about, and those two records.
Yeah.
So it was a great. We did that. So let's do this now. Let's explore some other stuff. I remember sitting in my vehicle with Edward, and we were talking about it. And he said, "Yeah, I got some ideas. Yeah, I got some ideas. That's great." And so we got together and we wrote together like "Weeping of the Spirits." And then I showed him I had written "Blood and Gasoline," "I Will Come for You," "Self-Crucifixion." He freaked out. He loved those tracks, and we were off. We had even less money to make those records, but then we did. I think we made Guardians. So we did it really fast, and it worked out for the better. It was just in and out. Let's go. Yeah.
I think that's a good way to sum it up in a way. Like, it all did work out, because I think like every album, I feel like Virgin Steel has the best of both worlds, where like you are able to demonstrate evolution and evolve your sound, throw some experimental elements, but in the end, there are elements that tie everything from the self-titled record to this new one together. So I think in the end you sort of had the best of both worlds, and you could kind of see how the similar elements were able to grow and bring in some new elements with it.
Thanks. I appreciate you saying that. I think there is a through line through it all. There definitely is, and it's our early connection to our bluesy roots. I call it the bones of the mountain sound. You know, it's like this real more primal element, and we always had that sprinkling, even on the first record, of some of the more classical things like "Children of the Storm" or the Songbird and Steel. So yeah, it's no matter how wild it gets, those elements are always still there. There's a unifying through line that ties everything together.
Yeah, of course. And because I like to ask artists who have been doing this for a long time, because, there are no artist can avoid this, whether you're a musician or a painter, filmmaker, writer. We all suffer through, either burnout or, sort of like dry spells in a way where, we kind of but you were able to consistently create stuff all these years. So is there almost kind of like an art to keeping things interesting in a way?
I think it's being open to new ideas and not feeling like you are in a jail cell. You know, you have to only do this one thing, because some people only like this one thing. We've been lucky in that some people really love that Life Among the Ruins style. Some people really love that Noble Habit style. Whatever, there's enough to go around, and I never personally wanted to be locked into any kind of into the group. So I think the idea was to just keep learning, keep gathering new information, and keep the channels open for whatever might flow through. I mean, I do have my problems in life, but writer's block has never been one of them. There's an overabundance of material that we have. It's difficult to like get it all out. This is like there's a backlog of things. But I'm always then writing something new. So some things get, I'll write something and I'll finish it up to one level. It's not completely done, but then it'll sit there, and then because I'm working on something new, and then I'll go back and go, oh wow, that was like really good. Let me finish that up and see how it shines or not within this framework of what we're doing now. So yeah, there's always a large amount of that going on. So it's just how it is with Burdens. We're fortunate in that respect that there is a large amount of stuff that we can draw from.
Yeah, well, and because there's a lot of bands too, like AC/DC, they never had to change their sound in a way. And I'm a diehard death metal fan, and Cannibal Corpse and Morbid Angel and Deicide. Well, maybe not Morbid Angel's certain album there, but like Deicide and whatnot and Obituary were kind of able to stick with the same style, and they've effectively been around. Maybe they're only like a couple years younger than Virgin Steel in a way. And I'm always happy with what they put out, but part of me wonders like how do they keep the blast beats and the intense riffs and the guttural growls going for so long?
I guess they just want to stay in that zone, and that's fine. So, I mean, I love AC/DC as well, and I'm somewhat familiar with some of the other bands you mentioned, and that's great if you want to do that. Like certain bands that's their thing, and whatever. That's not been the thing with Virgin Steel. It's always been like there's so much out there that we want to explore. There's so many different emotions and moods, and you want to express those things musically. So you go off on different tangents, but there's still, like I said, there's always something that ties it all together and brings it what it is. And I know that's not for everyone, and I don't expect it to be for everyone, but it is for us, and that's how we work. That's how we roll. So you might not like an album, but you might like another one. It's okay.
Do you think in the future we will, because 9 times out of 10 when I ask artists, regardless if they're rock or blues or death metal, a lot of times they'll say, oh, every song, it starts off with a riff. So part of me wonders, do you think we're ever going to run out of riffs one day?
No. As long as there's faith, heart, soul, passion. No, because you can just tweak that riff with one note and one inflection along the way, and it becomes new again. I mean, there's only 12 notes on the instrument, So, yeah, but no, I don't think so. I still feel as excited and as ready, as inspired every day when I go to write. It's always something, wow, that's interesting. Even if it's like something that's like slightly similar to what you might have done before. It's the real challenge is, as I said earlier, after that initial boom, there's the lightning strike. You got that spark for the idea. Is developing it. How far is it going to go? For me, for us, for what Virgin Steel does, that's where it is. It's at. Other bands are a different thing.
Of course. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today and for such an awesome conversation to start the week off. Is there just anything else with Virgin Steel that you would like to promote for the release of the Passion of Dionysus? Whether it will be shows coming up or what else we could be expecting for the Virgin Steel camp?
Thanks for having me. I greatly appreciate it. We're getting back to the live arena. So we're doing some dates in Europe in August. We've also got some dates going on for Europe in autumn, November, and there's going to be more shows there. And there's going to be we want to play on this side of the ocean as well. So there's going to be dates here as well. We're getting we're getting our feet back into the swimming pool, and the whole body's going to be in there, and the whole thing soon enough. Yeah,
Yeah.
so we want to do more and more. There'll be more videos and so on.
Yeah, I mean, hey, New York band, you got to play a show here, you know.
Absolutely. Where are you in New York?
Well, right now
Yeah.
I'm calling for my work in Brooklyn, but I live in Manhattan, so
Okay. Okay. All
yep.
right. Cool.
So
Look, you got a lot of gear there. Where you?
yeah, yeah, that's the day job right there. But thank you.
Looks great.
Yeah, awesome. But thank you so much, everybody. We are here with Virgin Steel, The Passion of Dionysus. Be sure to pick that up. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.
All right. By the gods and goddesses. Cheers.